Warning: this show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewers' discretion is advised. This show may contain strong language and sensitive or controversial topics. We are not attorneys and are not providing legal advice. The views and conversations are our own thoughts and feelings, and therefore, purely speculation.
The entertainment world and beyond.
Skywalker air miles, feeding on a surface, gliding on water, constricted and conflicted.
Welcome to Purely Speculation, a show that exposes the harmful effects of the criminal legal system. I'm your host, Heather Lewis, the Executive Director of the Reuniting Family Bail Fund and practitioner of participatory defense. On this show, you'll learn about the unspoken horrors of the criminal justice system and meet fierce allies and advocates. We will make the best of our traumatic experiences. We will get angry. We may even cry. We most certainly going to laugh, but one thing's for sure, we're going to keep it real. Welcome to Purely Speculation.
When they free my sins and let them loose, they was killing me, I got a scar to prove, got me paralyzed, I could even barely move. Out the way I took the pain again.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to episode 10. Let me say this. Every time we get on this live, we are making history because we're doing an episode we have never done before. So we are at episode 10 of our court watching edition with our court watch phenomenons, Taria and Scotty. Welcome to episode 10, y'all. We're holding it down.
Hello.
All right.
How can we say? You here? You got to be out there bird watching. So we have some interesting cases today. And one of the things we just want to kind of highlight is how referrals come to us, right? Whether it's participatory defense or the bail fund, referrals come from a friend or a friend of a friend of a friend, right? And so the case that we're going to highlight in a second came from exactly that. Scotty's sister, church member reached out to her, kind of, and put all her feelers out to everybody that she knows in this space. So Scotty, Taria, myself, and other people that are church members that, all of us may or may not know and have contact with. So all of us were getting kind of text messaging or, contact saying, hey, that we have this case that we need y'all to take a look at, right? And ultimately, I think Taria may have had the first point of contact with this case. And so tell me what that looked like, because even when we got in, like, this thing kind of happened like this, right? Probably 3 weeks? You know what I mean? That, before we got introduced to the case to having had some outcomes.
Yes. So, like you said, referrals come anywhere, anyhow, anywho. And we got this referral, actually, people say you only work Monday through Friday when it comes to business, 9 to 5. But in our world, in participatory defense, we work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, because somebody's always being incarcerated at different times of the hour, the day of the week. So this happened to come in a call on a Sunday where a referral came from a church member to another church member of what we do. It reached out, and then I told them that, we meet every Monday. And it was perfect timing because the call came in on a Sunday evening. And I said, oh, well, are you available tomorrow to meet with us? Because we meet every Monday from 6 to 8 at Macedonia Church House or via Zoom. And the person said, yes, I can just, my child comes first. So I'm going to come and I'm going to meet. And she came. She took off for a little half a day and she came and met with us. And we helped her resolve her son's case. And now he is home waiting for the next steps.
Right. And Mr. Scott, you had a different point of contact with the family. You want to describe your interaction, how that went?
Oh yeah, I met her at the church, and her and I had a conversation. But the biggest part of this whole crutch is that every neighborhood has somebody who is a contact person, so that if anybody needs anybody, you can always reach out as far as we can help you. But then after her and I had contact, she went back to Taria. Taria got her to come to the meeting as she so stated. And then we wind up going to court with her. And getting their son released.
Describe that court process, because that was new to us too, right? We
Right.
all debated like she can't be talking about going to the prison or to the jail, right? And we were all like in the thing, like, yeah, it's at the jail. So tell us about that, because this is again how we learn and how we can share with other people. Because if they would have said it and we didn't experience it, we'd be like, yeah, I don't know. But we were proved wrong.
When they said that they were having court at MCCF, we took for granted that it was a mistake, that they meant the courthouse. But she checked again and found out, now they have a courtroom at the county jail. Since COVID and since they were having problems with being on TV and having court cases, they built a separate section for 12 hours a day where you can go and have court right there at the jail.
So is there certain types of cases that's being heard up there? Like why or what would, you mentioned COVID. So, and that, I think his hearing was a gagnon. So, how do they decide what cases get heard up at the jail versus bringing folks to the courthouse? Or did we not?
Well, if they feel as though it's going to be a court case longer than a day, then you have to come down to the courthouse. But if they're doing, like you said, a gag 9, or they're doing a discovery motion, then it can happen there at the county jail.
And like you said, I wasn't able to make it, but you all attended. How, because we, like our Sixth Amendment right, and these are public hearings and we should be able to witness these proceedings. So what's the process? I think you said there was only space for about 4 people.
That's what I was going to talk about. Yeah, there's only space for 4 people. Now you're out in a waiting room and no one told you how many people would be allowed in there, because this gentleman had about 16 people that came there to give him support. But they told us that only 4 people would be allowed in the back. So that's all the judge got to see was the 4 people. But the court crier made him aware that there were 11 other people in the back who were supporting him.
Okay. Was there enough physical space, and that's just their kind of protocol?
There's no physical space for more than the 4 people.
Okay.
And I just wanted to intervene with that, because I just went through an experience about 2.5 weeks ago with a loved one of mine being incarcerated, and the new procedure of the MCCF with the court duties. So now, we know that about 2 years ago, I guess this is via COVID, they started a new program called pretrial services.
Right.
So what happens is now, you no longer when you get locked up on the streets, you no longer go to the police station anymore. So what happens is that you don't go to the police station anymore. You go straight to Montgomery County Correctional Facility, and you get arraignment right away. So now with the arraignment right away, you have a PD, a public defender, that's going to be there. No matter if you have a private attorney or not, they have a PD on call, a lawyer on call to be there for you to get arraigned either that same night, or you get arraigned in 3 segments. They have a 9:30 arraignment, they have a 2:30 arraignment, and they have a 7:30 arraignment with the judge that's on call. And I specifically went through that around August 5th, where my loved one was arraigned at 7:30 at night. I was able to be on the phone via phone while he was being arraigned. And then that's when pretrials was able to give me the set price of bail and any conditions that came with the bail from the judge that was on call that day. If they cannot make bail that night or that during the day, then they be reprimanded to the MCCF correctional facility. If they can make bail, they're supposed to give them a phone call. But my loved one told me that they weren't giving nobody phone calls. So pretty much they had to wait to go over to the prison, get processed, and then try to find somebody that could make a call for you to your family to let them know where you're at, what your bail is, and the next steps.
So if I'm following you correctly, so say I get arrested in Colmar. So I think that's Duffy. So Judge Duffy. So if I get arrested in Colmar, they're not going to take me to the Colmar police station, process me, and then take me to Judge Duffy for arraignment. They're going to take me straight to MCCF. And
yeah, so that was funny that you said that name, because Judge Duffy was exactly who arraigned my loved one. She was the one called judge that night. And she gave him a $20,000 cash bail with stipulations that he had to have an in-house level of care assessment. So what happened is that he was taken to Pottstown Police Station. The only reason he stayed in the police station all night is because when it's a level of care assessment, that comes with two reasons. That's either you got caught with a DUI or you got caught with a mental health crisis.
Okay.
So they have to make sure you're safe and secure to transport to MCCF. Okay. But if that didn't happen that way, he would have went straight from getting locked up on the streets straight to MCCF and then seeing a judge for arraignment.
Okay. And so, Scotty, I want you to weigh in on this because of, if you're following where I'm going. So we have 30 district judges, right? And so it sounds like that none of them are going to be doing any arraignments other than whoever maybe once a month, because they rotate who's on call, right? So once a month, one of these 30 MDJs will be hearing arraignments via video, because they're not going to be in their courtroom. They're going to be at MCCF. And so what would these judges be doing the rest of the time? Like, I'm trying to process, because I understand this is what pretrial is doing, because they want to have an attorney present at all times for arraignments, right? And we appreciate that, we get that. But this pretrial is evolving since 2 years ago. And so all of these things are happening. So let's kind of, play devil's advocate or kind of process where they're going with this, where we think it's going, or, you know what I mean? I want to have this deeper conversation.
Well, the way they explained it to me is that the judge who is there now is going to be there. And if he feels as though there's too many people that he has to handle, then he'll send them down to Lawrence or Hunsinger or whatever town they came from. Then they will go to the MDJ of that district.
So who's the judge at the jail?
I forget his name.
Three, you remember?
Well, it's different judges. So what happens is that, from what my understanding is, and this came from pretrials when I spoke to them, that Montgomery County Correctional Facility is now set up to be a arraignment facility. So only a few police stations are not abiding by that rule, but Montgomery County, majority of theirs are. So when you go to Pottstown automatically takes you to MCCF.
Okay.
So what she explained to me is that this is the new protocol. And then also what happens is that with this new circumstances and situation that they do, within 24 hours of your arraignment, you see another judge,
right?
That reviews your bill,
right?
And this happened to be Judge Rothstein that did the reviewing, so she must be the reviewing judge now. And
maybe that rotates like other responsibilities. Okay.
Yeah, because before we had Judge Page was doing the reviews,
and then I think Hill is after that,
and Hill is after that, and then Eisenberg, and now it must be Rothstein's time, because that's who reviewed the bill that morning, Monday morning. Because my loved one got locked up on a Friday, so you have to sit the weekend, and you don't get the review until 9:30 Monday morning. So when she reviewed the bail, instead of it being 20,000 cash bail, she made it 20,000 unsecured bail. And that morning, she seemed to give everybody unsecure.
Okay.
So that's where that came to.
And that plays to the plight that they are not in accordance with what's happening at the jail. They feel as though it gives them too much power up at MCCF in their power about what they can do at the courthouse. And it's jumping right over our district judges who now they have a limited time to be in the courtroom as it is. And now it seems like it's going to get even shorter.
Right, because they're not going to be hearing the arraignment, or they'll have one day a month.
And it goes back to the police officer also. The police officer has a discretion whether to take you to MCCF or to take you to the magistrate, which gives them too much power.
Right. This is crazy.
Yes, but see, you made it crazy. You have a hand in all this, because with your group of court watchers going in and out of these courtrooms, seeing how they do and what they do to your folks, now they say, oh, well, we'll shake it up. So they won't know where we're at Monday. They won't know where we're at Wednesday. We don't know what DJ is handling what. We don't know whether they're going to MCCF or not. So it's up to us now that we have to do as a folks say, we have to do the Overbrook shuffle to find out where our people are and what we need to do to put something in place where they have to let us know what's going on. Because right now they say, oh, you shook us, now we're going to shake you. And I think where we have to come in again and let them know that, hey, you could play all the games you want, but we're still going to be here.
Right. And that's interesting because, like Taria said, 2 years ago when this pretrial stuff started happening, and I had a conversation with the president, Judge Del Ritchie, at the time, and he was like, it's not my job to tell you where we're at. And I'm like, absolutely it is your job. These are public meetings or public hearings. The community has a right to know. So if you playing, you know what I mean, move, what's that magic trick with the shuffling, with the coconut shuffle, like you moving, and it's like, you know what I mean? How are we supposed to know? We're always 2 steps behind you, and you know it, and it's intentional, and that should be illegal. Like, you should not have to hide or be able to hide under a stack of papers where we're supposed to be that day. And they're not sharing it. They're not forthright with that information, because you're exactly right. We've been sitting there. We've been reporting on what we're seeing. We're holding these systems accountable, and they don't like it. And I'm not sure, you know what I mean, how well the district judges like it. Like you said, with the police having the power of, okay, I can choose whether or not I take you to the district court or I take you right to MCCF. So that may, the magistrate has no authority. Or maybe they tell their police department, I want you to bring them here. You know, we don't know who feels what kind of way unless we literally poll every one of them and find out. And then, like you said too, like now it's the Court of Common Pleas that's kind of overriding what the district courts are saying. I was on a PA bail call a couple of days ago, and we had exactly that conversation. And it's different in every county how they're doing it. And some of them, you know what I mean, with the data and with the MDJs, that what message is it sending to the MDJs that the Court of Common Pleas is now, you know, interrupting that process, that linear process?
Yeah, because it used to be a judge had to be on, a magistrate judge had to be on call on the weekends, or they had one who had to be on call a lot of times from, say, 12 at night until 9 in the morning when the sitting judge would come in and take over. But since they have this in place, okay, now they just take you right to MCCF,
Right.
and whatever happens to you after that happens to you. Now they
Right.
can't, Sharia was saying, send you back down to Lawrence or Hunsinger, or well, not Lawrence anymore,
Right.
but Todd Barnes
Right.
or Denise Ash or Marge now. So we don't know where we're going to be, where your loved one's going to be in the court system.
Right. So so we're talking about the arraignment. So that's initially, that's what happens immediately. Once you get arrested, this is what happens. So now that we move past that, 15 days from that, if they're still in custody, they have a preliminary hearing. Are they now at least taking them down to the MDJ? Or are they now doing this courtroom in
No, they're
MCC?
doing them in the courtroom. That's what happened to the young man that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Yeah, he was supposed to come down and they didn't bring him down.
Right.
So then give him another date for the hearing, and the hearing wind up being there at MCCF.
But that was his gag 9. So his case was a little different. So if somebody that didn't have any detain or anything like that, if I just got arrested and I can't post my bail, is it still going to be there at MCCF? Or are they going to
No,
take?
I don't
no, they're
think
going to
so.
come to the court. They're going to come to the court of the wherever it happened.
Okay, because I'm like, at what point it sounds like the MDJs are about to be out of a job.
No, because my loved one has to go in front of.
And house it, like tenant landlord stuff and parking tickets.
No, because my loved one has to go in front of Paladina
The district the jurisdiction.
Yeah, but now what they do though is that they do postpone if they're not ready, if Commonwealth isn't ready. So like my loved one's hearing was supposed to be within 10 days, 10 to 15 days, you're supposed to have a preliminary hearing.
When you're in custody, absolutely.
But they were in custody, and on the docket, I'm glad I looked at it. When I looked at the docket each and every day, it got postponed to September 14th due to Commonwealth not ready for the case.
And how is that acceptable, Ms. I'd like to hear you weigh in, because I mean we're going definitely off topic of what we were talking about. This is very interesting though, just because we know what the logistics and what the law says as far as the process and the timeline. And if you're in custody, you got to be seen within 15 days. If you're not in custody, you got 21 days. So now, say hypothetically your loved one was still in custody at the time they postponed it, he was, right? And so now you postpone it to almost 2 months from the date of arrest. Like that's excessive.
Well, what happens a lot of times is that your lawyer who is not ready will do it, and then that negates your Rule 600.
I understand that. Right.
Court rejects it and renegotiates a date, then you have to have your lawyer go after them to be released on Rule 600. But what they're using now is still COVID. They're saying because of the backup that the Rule 600 is not coming into play in a lot of cases.
Okay. So since you brought up Rule 600, we'll go roll into that. And so the young man, we will be court watching and we will be attending and supporting his court date. He's home, doing well, and we happy at that. Taria's been in the courts a couple times last week and had experienced some pretty crazy things around the Rule 600. You want to start with the young lady that was in front of Del Ritchie?
Yes, it was a young female in her early 20s that was out since 2019 on bail due to some illegal activity with gun charges. And I happened to slip into Del Rich's courtroom, just to see how he was doing and, how his courtroom still was going. Since late October, I've been in there when a sentencing hearing for my loved one happened in front of him. Right. So when I went in, I happened to slip into a Rule 600. And from my understanding, when I got in there, the young lady came for exactly that, the Rule 600. But some way, I don't know if, her lawyer and the DA end up going on a different kind of wave, but it went from a Rule 600 hearing to her being forced to take an open plea without no education or knowledge to what she just gave up.
Right.
If it wasn't for Del Rich explaining to her that now that you are willing to take this open plea, I can no longer honor the Rule 600.
Right.
And further do, if you want to come later to try to put the motion in for Rule 600 again, it will be denied due to I have to withdraw it because you are now taking an open plea.
Right.
The young lady was not aware of what was just going on. She just went off of her representation, her attorney. I told her this was the best thing to do. And when it was time for the counter charges to be read, and Del Rich to ask her, is she doing this under her own will and no one's forcing, coercing her or anything to do this? When the DA read the facts of the case, the young lady was like, "That's not the truth. That's not what happened." So Del Rich intervened and he said, "Well, I can't take this plea if you're not agreeing to what Commonwealth is saying that you did on this alleged date and time." Her lawyer whispered to her, "This is the best thing for you. Just go ahead and take it. And then we go from there." And then the poor lady went and took the deal on her lawyer's kind of coercement of saying, "This is what you need to do." The lady was very upset and she didn't understand anything. But she didn't ask no questions.
Right.
She said it after the fact, after she kind of like signed the dotted line. And when she
Right.
came outside in the hallway, then she became very angry and felt like they just pushed and forced her to do something that against her own will.
Right.
But
But like you said, she didn't ask any questions.
if he's seen what was going, the interaction between her and her lawyer, and seen that she was not in accordance with what her lawyer was talking about, as the judge, it was his job not to accept that guilty plea.
Right. Continue it, have them come back. But again,
That's
with
right.
that Rule 600 on the table, you know
Right.
what I mean? How, you know what I mean? And I appreciate that because like we don't give our judges credit when they do something good. Like, he tried, you know what I mean? So just technically, okay, how would he have been able to do that? Because he was supposed to be hearing that Rule 600 motion. So either he'd have to continue it because of the defense, and that would negate the Rule 600, or do we continue on? We're going to hear this Rule 600, like, you know what I mean? Just out of the technicality of it, you know what I'm saying? Like, how would he have been able to do that and still be able to give her the time and honor her right to have a speedy trial? And essentially, that's what the Rule 600 is. She literally just gave up. She was out on bail for 2 years, and her case hadn't been heard, and she was there for a Rule 600. They had that shit tossed, and they sat there and let that shit happen. That shit's crazy.
And the problem with that is she was taking an open plea. She was not taking a plea bargain. She was taking an open plea.
But
So
how do you even switch?
you don't get to come back in court. That's why I don't understand why that lawyer would even, after she spent 2 years, she had already did her time, depending on what they were saying, as far as the case that she was there to fight. She probably had already did her time. And she
was out on bail. She was out.
Right. Probably did her time.
She was out on bail since 2019. So the case had already, the guys that she allegedly bought the firearms for already then got sentenced and started their time.
Right. Over.
So she was out since 2019. So she's been out almost going on 3.5 years. Where that, like Ms. Heather said, that case should have been tossed.
She should have been tossed. She should be a free woman right now.
Right.
What is her recourse? Because this was last week. And I know there's like 10 days and things like that. Like, so she took the plea, she signed on the line. The 600 is off the table. What about ineffective counsel? Because this shit just looks so crazy. Like,
And that's
what
only
recourse does she have?
recourse. That is her only recourse if they
Ineffective. But
ineffective
Taria,
counsel.
go ahead. I'm
Other
sorry,
than that open plea, she has none.
Taria, and describe when you met her, how her response was with you.
So when I met her, actually, Alana kind of, told her kind of who I was and what we do, and asked me would I like to talk to her first before she talked to her. And I said, sure, and it was saddened because this is us people. And I'm going to say us people because as African Americans, we seem to look at each other like you can't tell me nothing
Right.
because I guess we're the same color and the same caliber and the same
We in the
nature.
same boat.
So we in the same boat. So I guess someone of a different color can tell you better or different that you believe.
Right.
But that's not always true because you just seen that I was the only one in there that looked like you and your support that was there. Me and him was the only ones in that courtroom that
Right.
looked like you. And everybody else did not look like you. And you went and you let them railroad you. But the one of your same caliber and color is the one that could have probably helped you to
Right.
make a better decision. And like Pop said, Mr. Scott said, and also make a decision to coming back and recording that 10 days that you had available for
Right.
yourself to get out of this trap.
Right.
But her approach to me was, I'm in an emotional state right now and I'll get to you later. And I never heard from her again. And that's why we have people like her that's going to get sent up the river because they do not take the resources from their own people to think that we can do the job of somebody that has a degree.
Right. And that's where the cultural shift. I was on a panel at Villanova and we talked about the culture of the courtroom. And it's slow, it's like a snail's pace, getting our folks to trust us, to know that we know what we're talking about. We are directly impacted people. We were sitting in that seat that you're sitting in now, and it's just so unfortunate. And that public defender, I mean, his reputation, I don't know if you want to call his name out or not, but I mean, there needs to be an intervention with him. I mean, we've intervened with Ben Cooper and have seen him turn around and do better, with some folks, but
I had no problem. His
call it.
name is Eric Donato, and he's a young public defender. I have seen him in a couple of different cases. To me personally, I think he's a little scary. I think that he's intimidated by the prosecution. I think he's intimidated by these judges, and you could tell he's a very young lawyer, an experienced lawyer that's just trying to make a name for himself. But from the cases that I've seen him do, nobody leaves out happy, and he's always being cursed out by his clients.
Wow. So that's a note to anyone that has Eric Donato as your public defender. You will have to tell him what to do and or speak up to the court that he is not listening to you and that he is doing the opposite of what you're asking him to do. You're going to have to be your own advocate when it comes to Eric Donato of the public defender's office. So you have been duly noted.
And that's why we try and tell these people that you need an intermediate between you and these attorneys, because you guys giving them $20,000-$30,000, and I'm not talking about the PDs. I'm just talking about these certain lawyers. Period. That you're giving them $20,000-$30,000, and they're plea bargaining you up the river on the first boat that comes along.
Right.
When you have no appeal rights, you have nothing to stand on to get you back in court. And all they want to do is get the case over and done with so I can go on to the next person.
Right.
But if they come to us, we can wade through the water with them. We can tell them what that lawyer is supposed to do, what a fee sheet looks like, what that lawyer's obligation to them is after they sign that agreement. So those are important things that people seem to think that we don't need you. Like Taria said, well, what do you know?
Right.
What do you
Right.
think? I know 8.5 years. That's what I know. And you're
And I
getting
am
ready
so
to
glad
prepare
that you said that.
with no help.
And piggyback off of what you just said real fast, I had got a call from MCCF last night from a client that we have that's a part of the hub. He goes to court on the 31st for a Rule 600 in front of Judge Walker. And he told me that's exactly what's being done lately on from about 10 inmates. They are pretty much playing, I guess, roll the dice. So pretty much it's like one prosecutor has about 10 of these client cases with these inmates. And it's like basically, what bargain are you willing to take so we can get this case over with and just get a conviction? So
Right.
it's like basically I roll 10, that's what you're gonna get 10. I roll 7, you're gonna get 7 to 14. I roll 5, you're gonna get a 5 to 10. And these are cases that have been sitting on desk for pre-COVID, just want to get over and done with, severe cases, but you take this 12.5 to 24 right now, and we'll dismiss everything else.
Right.
And, we just want this conviction to close the book. And that's
Right.
what is being told to me yesterday, because this had came at this person, you take this 1.5 to 3, and, we just want to get it over and done with no evidence or nothing, so we can just get this conviction and you go on about your business, or possibly time served to 23, followed by about 4 years probation.
That's it. That's the one right there. That's the ding, 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 ding. That's the
Right.
one that people are taking, right? Because they're getting out. They've been sitting all this time.
Right.
They want to go home.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that shit looks good. It looks good.
And the other end of that is, though, they don't know if the case even carries the time that you're submitting to. And then even if it does, and you're taking a plea deal, then they put that probation on your back. So you're doing the whole doggone time anyhow. You're really not getting a deal. What you're getting is screwed.
Thank you. Because this person's been incarcerated for 2 years now. And then they come with offering him for 3 gun charges and one drug charge, a 1.5 to 3. He has that already in.
Right.
So what is he going to go and do 1.5 to 3 on? Because he has 2 years in the county already. And then you're asking him possibly time served. And let me tell you this kicker, and I'm going to leave it alone. He went and he had 3 lawyers. He had Ben Cooper first. He had, rest in peace, Michael Quinn. And now he has Francis Walsh. The 3rd lawyer came back to the drawing board. Now, mind you, in this alleged crime of one of these firearms, he got shot. So now the question is he willing to will and deal? Will give him,
like Biggie said,
who shot you? That's what they said. But they had the lawyer call the mother and say, can your son work with us on who shot him? And we can probably work with him better. But what are you working with him better at? Time served to 23 months? You're still making him come home with some tail. Right, you're not like getting out on freebie, like Pop just, like Mr. Scott just said.
Let me walk clean. Let me walk clean. No tail. Because if they give you a tail, they're definitely going to pull it. Sooner or later, they're going to pull that tail, and you're going to wind up right back where you're at now. So you don't get no deals. The only deal you get is you say, hey, let me walk.
And we know that that's against the law too, because that is actually you coercing someone to cooperate. And that's you're right. Giving them a favor for a favor, but you're going to say in the end, we can't promise him anything. But if he helps us to help himself, we can see what we can do. We already know that that's against the law.
Yeah, but
you do it every day.
When he says we can't promise you anything, that gets him off the hook. That gets him off the hook for that. When he says, hey, we can't promise you anything, that takes that away for being unlawful. And they know that. And that's what they use at the end. But we can't promise you anything. So why put in that position if you can't promise me a healthy outcome?
And so when you're asked on that stand, have you been coerced, twisted, threatened, or whatever to make this plea deal? The answer is yes. Right. Because if I don't take it, they're going to bring back all the other charges that got dismissed. Like, that shit's crazy to me. Like, I'll never get it. And you know, this is a system that has been working, and they have all their reasons why, right? We know, I have a friend who has a son who has a firearms charge that is a result of a legal stop, an illegal search. You know what I mean? Because they said he looked nervous. Okay, he's a black man being pulled over by the police. Of course he looks nervous. But they're going to let this case play out instead of having it dismissed at the beginning where it should be, because it's fruit of the poisonous tree. Mr. Scott, your favorite line. It should be tossed out. But they're going to let it play out these 3 times and let the people not show up and this and that, or the police not show up, so that maybe this kid gets scared straight, right? And it's like, is that the place for it? Legally, that's not your job, right? Your job is, one, the DA is supposed to bring forth a case that they can try and supposedly win with evidence. The evidence says you wrongfully searched this kid's car. He looked nervous. You pulled him over. He looked nervous. So you asked him to get out?
And see here, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Do you know your rights? Okay.
Right.
But case should have been stopped, okay, at the district level. That's
Absolutely.
That's who makes sure that the case is bona fide to be able to go to Common Pleas court. But it should have been thrown out then, when they had no just because he looked nervous, to be able to stop him, and then telling him to get out the car, because
search his car without a warrant. There's no problem.
He doesn't have to get out of the car.
Exactly. And so that goes to show, when we talk about the culture of the courtroom in this system, when we went and watched the bail hearing last week, also, when the judge said, "Oh, I'll give you my ruling later." I'm not telling this whole courtroom full of people what I'm about to do, right? The judge said that. Then the attorney, because he had the young man had ineffective counsel, he hadn't paid him, he was still on file as his attorney, but he wasn't getting paid, he wasn't moving forward. So that man, because we sat in on his initial bail hearing, and he said nothing. He said nothing to defend this kid. And so his new attorney, that was her argument, that not that whatever happened didn't happen, is the fact that he did not have effective counsel to argue his position. And therefore, the bail should be back to what it was, or, reconsidered, whatever, right? And she said, I had to have this conversation in chambers because I didn't want to put a target on my back and throw that attorney under the bus. So all these things legally that are supposed to be happening, if you just did what the law said, you wouldn't have a target on your back.
Right.
You would be able to say in this courtroom, because you're worried about overturning a bail that a judge put when he didn't have appropriate representation. Like, right. Everybody just do your job.
No, I might have to play golf. I might have to play golf with these lawyers next week. And I don't want to take that golf from them about, why'd you overturn my case when we had that nigga by the drawstrings and you let him go. That's why I want to do things in my chamber and don't want to do them in open court. And that goes back to what we said earlier, that we are putting heat on their behinds, and they are feeling it big time.
Good.
So anything they can do to try and sit in a cold seat to cool that behind down, these are the maneuvers that they're using to try and do away with us. But what they're going to have to realize is that, hey, we in it to win it. We're going to be.
And they're breaking the law. That's the thing. They're breaking the law.
But they make the law to break the law. It's their law. You know what that white man told us? This law, this works fine. We keep crying about this does not work for us. He said, hey, it ain't yours. This works for us perfectly fine. It wasn't made for you. That's why it doesn't work for you. It works for us, and it works fine.
And that's right.
Fix it. Isn't that what he said?
Yes. And we have that exact situation right now in Georgia where Donald Trump is on RICO charges, and we got a rapper that's on RICO charges, and he's staying in there because he's a menace to society, and Donald Trump made bail because he's not a menace to society, but he started a whole riot on January 6th.
Okay,
So at the end of the day, we already know what time that is.
And he has 3 other charges sitting there waiting for him in 3 other states.
Right.
But he's a menace to society.
Yeah. That's called menace to untouchable.
It's for us. For us.
Oh, I can't.
So we just, to sum up, we just got Rothstein. She's just been doing good. She has turned a new leaf. She's doing wonderful. She has been doing overturnments. She's been doing suppression overturnments. She's been doing unsecure bail. Judge Walker, he's been throwing out all cases that come in front of him that he's seen a name too many times. He's been giving a lot of Rule 600s. He's been letting people just go and do things by the right way, the facts and the law. Judge Carpenter is back in his bag. He's now giving out harsher sentences again. If you come into his courtroom with a 3rd-degree murder charge now, you're getting 25 to 50. You're no longer getting the 10 to 20s, the 15 to 30s, the 17 to 30 or 40 years. He's back in his bag. He's awake now. He's back to old Judge Carpenter. He's not sleeping anymore.
Yeah, 40 years of sleep.
You woke up to sleeping. you know what they say.
Shit, let me get back on my seat.
You woke up the sleeping bear, so he's back at it. But other than that, we're gonna keep on going strong. We're gonna keep on watching these judges. We're gonna keep on fighting the power, and we're gonna keep on trying to educate our people, because people are very, very ignorant to their rights in the law.
Yes.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Our people are going to have to realize that just because we don't have a degree or we don't have doggone a license to be a lawyer or whatever, that it doesn't always take that. Sometimes it takes street knowledge, okay, to get you through the system. And any help that you can receive, you should be able to take it. Even if you don't use it, at least listen. Find out if there is another avenue that might be open for you, that you don't do the time that these people are trying to put on you. Right. Do your homework. As we say, do your due diligence. And then come back to us, and we'll still open arms for you. But you have to know what is going on in your case. Don't let these lawyers fill you up with a bunch of junk that gets them paid and gets you laid.
Right. That's right. Thank you. I love y'all so much. Like this was a very stressful conversation, just because we know the outcomes of some of these situations, and it's just so hard and heartbreaking when you know that you got what they need to help them make the best decision and get the best outcome for their case, and they're just struggling with it because, like Taria said, they're looking at the color of our skin like we don't hold no value, or we're not intelligent and we don't know what we're talking about. And it's like, okay, maybe we don't, but guess what? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you know? Okay, you just judging us, looking at us saying, oh, well, I don't want to trust them. But do you trust yourself? Do you trust yourself to do your due diligence? Do you trust yourself to trust somebody that's putting their hand out to help you? Right. That looks like you.
And you're the one on the hot seat. We ain't on the hot seat.
We have nothing to lose.
We don't have nothing to lose. We ain't on the hot seat.
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing to lose. And I'm gonna end on that. You know what I mean? We had a great show guest formerly incarcerated, was looking at life in prison, that was able to mitigate and get his case resentenced. Eric Van Zandt from Reform Alliance was our guest on our 10th episode. Please check it out. That was such a powerful testimony that he had about his own trauma as a kid and as a young man, that if you're struggling to look for somebody to connect with, there are people that have been on this show that have been where you've been, that have come out of, they're on the other side of where you're at, that they can kind of help and guide you through that. If you know somebody, like, continue to like and share this. Like, nobody wants this message to get out, especially not the court systems. They don't want you knowing. They don't want you empowered. They don't want you questioning. Even your private public defenders, your defense attorneys don't want you knowing this, because guess what? You're going to make them work. Get that invoice and hold them accountable to what they say they're going to do for you. If they're only going to be, ask them, are you going to see me pass? Are you a trial attorney? Are you going to see me pass my preliminary hearing? Are you prepared to take the long haul? Ask those questions up front. Don't wait until he took your money and told you buy it. Be like, hold up. You know what I mean? But that's a whole nother show that we could talk about that stuff. But we're dropping nuggets and dimes and gems on y'all so that if you ever find yourself in contact with the police, you know how to handle yourself. You don't give up stuff that's going to put you in a worse situation than just shutting your mouth. You know what I mean? So peace and love to everybody. Y'all got me hype. I wasn't expecting to get hype on this, but y'all know how I do. I get very emotionally invested because we're talking about people's lives. And if we remember that we're talking about people's lives, we can and will and should do better. With that, love you. Peace out.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Purely Speculation. If you learned something, share something. Please like, follow, and share this show. The more our communities know, the more they are empowered, and the faster we can create change. Purely Speculation would not be made possible without the generous support of the Community Justice Exchange, the Health Sparks Frank E. Boston Black Justice Fund, Philadelphia Foundation, and Reform Alliance. Thank you. Booyah!
Intuition different, already lived and dreamt it. Visions make my vision clear as I'm jogging through this fog of life. I be fog like what the fuck said. Body and I'm all set. Baby, can you be